For 2 decades, the unscripted television industry has operated on a simple, brutal contract. You surrender your absolute personal privacy, your romantic timeline, and your raw emotional vulnerability. In exchange, the network gives you a paycheck and temporary relevance. Cast members who protect their personal lives or resist producers' narrative traps are quickly labeled difficult or boring. Shortly after, they are fired. Paige DeSorbo entered Bravo's Summer House as a secondary, style-focused addition. Her early contributions were narrow, focusing on budget-conscious fashion tips rather than providing the raw, volatile personal crises producers typically expect from a new cast member. Entering the house with fewer than 2,000 Instagram followers, she built a highly disciplined boundary around her private affairs. She fabricated a minimal fashion influencer persona, timing its growth specifically to her broadcast premiere date. By treating the network's cameras as a subsidized distribution node rather than a permanent career, she executed a strategy now described as the DeSorbo inversion. She used the show's reach to build an independent brand that eventually held more leverage than the show itself. To maintain a stable personal brand within an ensemble house, you have to control your physical environment. High-risk events happen in the communal spaces, kitchens, backyards, and dining rooms. These are areas where alcohol consumption is high and confrontational dynamics are actively engineered by production. DeSorbo withdrew from these high-risk areas, pioneering a physical defense strategy known to viewers as bed rotting. While critics labeled this as laziness, the bedroom served as a zone of corporate insulation. By staying in bed with her closest friends, she effectively limited her exposure to the unscripted group trauma unfolding elsewhere in the house. This spatial containment transformed her role into that of an observer. Because she avoided the physical chaos, producers were forced to use her bedroom segments to anchor the narrative, allowing her to deliver prepared, humorous commentary that set the tone of the episode. Reality producers frequently weaponize romantic relationships, pushing couples toward cohabitation or marriage to secure seasonal storylines. During her 3-year relationship with Southern Charm star Craig Conover, he pushed for traditional milestones: marriage, children, and a permanent relocation to South Carolina. Relocating to Charleston would have absorbed DeSorbo into Conover's regional franchise, subjecting her to a different ensemble and a narrative she couldn't control. She responded with a logistical countermaneuver, refusing to move from her professional stronghold in New York. By split filming their relationship across 2 separate cities and 2 different shows, she denied producers a continuous, real-time timeline of their romantic friction. This bicoastal gridlock meant that when the relationship ended in late 2024, she was able to manage the fallout off-camera. She announced the breakup on her podcast, framing the narrative before Bravo could edit the footage into a sensationalized storyline. The primary vulnerability for most cast members is their total financial dependence on the network's paycheck. Producers use this dependence as leverage. DeSorbo neutralized this by constructing an economic fortress independent of NBC Universal. Her Giggly Squad podcast and touring infrastructure evolved into a self-sustaining media business. With 53 national tour dates, the tour generated gross receipts estimated between $13 and $26 million, dwarfing a standard reality TV salary. Because podcast touring bypasses expensive overhead, the take-home profit is highly efficient, estimated at 20%. This baseline is supported by elite corporate sponsorships and live speaking fees that command between $200,000 and $300,000 per event. This financial decentralization meant the network could no longer use the threat of a canceled contract to dictate her behavior. She negotiated provisions that protected her brand and allowed her to refuse damaging scenes. Her brand eventually reached a level of mainstream validation few reality stars achieve, culminating in legacy mogul Martha Stewart joining her for a bedrot segment on Amazon Live. By building an independent revenue stream, DeSorbo shifted the power dynamic. She proved that you cannot intimidate talent that no longer needs your money. Contrast DeSorbo's composed behavior with the approach of legacy cast members, who often sacrifice their long-term privacy and emotional health to maintain their spots on the show. Maintaining a corporate brand in a toxic media landscape requires strict psychological discipline. DeSorbo systematically shielded her personal life to avoid the reputational damage common in unscripted television. In the modern creator economy, a performer optimized for digital marketability often has more longevity than a participant who relies on organic emotional breakdowns for ratings. When public allegations about her new relationship emerged, it created a massive production crossfire for the upcoming season. She executed a final autonomy play by voluntarily exiting the franchise before filming even commenced. She even declined to use her final season to promote her new fashion line, prioritizing her brand protection over free marketing. Walking away at the peak of her popularity demonstrated that her independent business was now more valuable than maintaining a presence on reality television. Her trajectory highlights a shift in the industry. Networks now have to manage talent that holds significant digital and financial leverage outside of the broadcast contract. This strategy creates a paradox for the genre. If every cast member maintains strict professional boundaries and refuses to be messy, reality television loses its narrative engine. Unscripted ensembles fundamentally rely on chaotic human vulnerability to sustain their storylines. The legacy media model struggles when talent outgrows the show's boundaries. Production needs chaos to survive, but a modern creator's brand requires stability. DeSorbo's trajectory demonstrates that a digital native performer can shift the traditional power balance. She turned a reality television debut into a self-sustaining business, allowing her to walk away before the medium could extract her personal ruin. By neutralizing the financial and narrative leverage of the network, she changed the power dynamic of the reality ensemble. She left the franchise at her peak, with an independent empire already built to replace it.